All right, we are live.
Hey everybody.
Hello, hello.
I'm gonna do it because I love it.
Do
Even
it.
if you guys don't, I do.
We love it too.
Julie is opening
We
BGMC
just
cards.
feel bad opening your cards because
Oh,
they're
I
not
don't.
ours.
I have packs. Where are you guys
Oh,
open?
come on, come on.
Yes,
Let's
please.
each
Do
open.
it. There's different kinds.
All right.
Yeah, I want to cheat.
All right, everybody.
Disaster.
I didn't get any hollows. This is all sad. But I hope you guys do.
Yes, come on, baby.
Get something good.
Wait for you.
God, if you're real, I need a miracle.
Oh boy, you sound like the kids in Pittsburgh right
Oh.
now.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's a little
Is there
dangerous
like
with theology.
is there a special shuffle of these like that? You know. Like,
Oh my god.
Whoa, Grandpa Buddy.
You got a hollow.
oh shoot.
Let's go.
There is like I think people go 1, 2, 3 and put it in the back.
Yeah.
In case of any like hollows or
Oh,
whatever.
are they
And
typically at the?
I guess that third.
I know that they do that with
position or
like
something.
Pokemon cards and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
maybe
too.
that's where it all starts.
What do they
I
do?
don't know.
They like
Like
shuffle
when you
the front
open
3 to the
one.
back.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. It's like something.
It's
how
like
the
a
cards
good luck
are-
thing.
Where it usually locates
Where the location.
in the
So like,
shuffle.
Oh, oops.
Oh,
Okay.
we got Dick Brogdon,
woo.
Jennifer, Live
Maybe
Dead.
It might be fun.
I want to see a me version.
Hey, everybody,
These are
welcome
Pixar
back.
looking.
We're opening some BGMC cards.
Yes.
Kick and
It's so
go.
fun. I got a hollow, Doug.
Ayo,
Uh-oh.
He digs wells in Africa for clean water.
Digs
Love
Wells.
Digs wells.
Change of plans.
He
How
works-
many times we
Oh,
spilled lemonade?
Yes. He works with Speedy Delight. No, he works
Speedy.
Speedy
Delight.
Delight.
Love that.
because Speedy Delight and BGMC partner together often.
Sounds like a
right?
treat.
Disaster.
Man, I'm itching for some Speedy Delight.
Speedy Delight.
Yeah, chickens,
Sunny Delight.
resource card, so cute.
Is Pencil
Chicken.
Pal rare at all?
Ooh,
Oh.
pencil pal, nice, and it's a hollow. That's great. Any hollow
Mark,
is
you-
the character card is like
Oh,
yes,
cool.
You lucked out.
it's
You hit it.
important. It's good.
You hit the
It's
jackpot.
exciting,
This is
right?
fun.
And then there are certain ones that are just actually rare.
Right. Oh, I got a
But
Charizard.
listen- oh my gosh. No.
Oh, never mind.
Different game. Different game.
That's not it. That's not it. But any church that's interested in starting this up with their kids, maybe you already have BGMC at your church, but you haven't dove into
Mhm.
these awesome cards. Like, please reach out to me. I want to help you. I want to give you ideas on how to do it. I want to resource you as best as I can.
Yeah, it's great. And we may talk about this a little bit later in our session, but what a great conversation starter with your kids to talk through some really, really cool things. And yeah, very fun.
Mhm.
Very fun.
Hey, everybody. Welcome. If you guys are joining us, we're going to get started soon. Welcome back. Hope you had a good last session there. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat.
Just an FYI, that tall camera is our main camera this time.
Oh, sweet.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Wow, I can't believe this day has almost
Yeah.
come to an end.
Almost.
Bye.
Almost.
Hopefully, you guys have had amazing conversations and some
Yeah.
fun too.
For sure.
Messing with each other like these guys do.
Yes. Hey, I'm going to throw in the chat as well my cell phone number. We would love for you guys to take a group picture
Oh, that'd be great.
and text it to me. I meant to say it in our first session, but we were scrambling with our tech issues. So
I try to imagine sometimes what youth ministry would have looked like if we were on the same team.
Ooh, interesting.
be wild.
I mean, Jesus might be back by now.
Could be.
Right.
I don't think so, but
That's what would
I
happen.
feel like that's heresy. But
Hold on.
Well, he's waiting for everyone to hear.
yeah. So hey, text us a picture of your group. And if you got your full group, great. If kids, youth, whatever, we'd love to throw it up on our social media and give you guys a shout out.
Sound is good, right? They can hear us.
Can everybody hear us? Can everyone hear us? Give me
Just
someone
in
in the
case.
chat. Let us know.
Just in case it was the Zoom call before that they heard us all through.
Mm.
It should be though. I think
Good
I
call.
think the microphone is.
Can you guys hear us? Somebody in the chat, let me know. Vivian said this has been awesome for my team. Thank you.
Love that. Okay, cool. That thumbs up. I'm guessing.
Thumbs
is that
up.
they
We
can
got
hear us.
yes. Awesome. Great. All right. We're going to wait a couple, maybe a minute, 1 minute or two, as we got everyone's kind of jumping back in here. So really good to see you guys. If you missed that, we'd love for you to take a picture of your group, shoot me a text so we can throw it up on our social media and And it's also just fun for us to look at and see where you guys are at and what you're doing.
It was very exciting how many churches across the state. And this year, to my knowledge, we were international, right? Wasn't there a
Yes.
team from South Africa?
We had somebody register from South Africa this year, which
That's
is
pretty cool.
they
That's
said they
very
were
cool.
here for Julie. So
Oh, love that.
I mean, they didn't say that,
They
but
definitely didn't
oh,
say
oh.
that's how I interpreted the registration.
I mean, they didn't in the past. Julie's here this year.
and they did.
And now, I mean, it seems like a logical A plus B equals C
Right.
situation.
I agree. I agree. All right. Well, we're gonna get started. I know we still have churches jumping on, but we've only got 30 minutes here, and then we're gonna close up. So, want to make the most of our time together. Thank you guys for being with us, Mark. Thanks for a great final session. That was awesome. Let me mute this.
Rookie move.
We already got pictures coming through. Thank you for listening.
Love that.
So, and if you didn't, keep sending us pictures. We love to see them.
Yeah.
If you have questions, just a reminder, throw those in the chat. We would love to be able to make sure we answer as many as we can. So, Mark, I'm curious to hear from you kind of an overview question.
Mhm.
You've been out of local church youth ministry as a full-time youth pastor now for several years.
Yep.
And you and I joke a lot to say, like, when we're coaching people or having conversations, like, here's all the things we wish we could have done differently. And when it comes to this topic of building faith that outlasts us, like, how do you feel like your perspective has changed in the last however many years it's been? I don't know, 7 years since you've transitioned.
Yeah, I believe I'm in that 7th year away from.
Right.
Yeah.
So the world has really changed. Culture's really changed. Your perspective has changed. You now have 3 out of 4 girls in youth ministry.
Yeah.
Like, so how has your perspective changed on some of that?
I think one of the things that when I was in youth ministry, like occupationally full time, and thankfully we still are involved in with the lives of our youth and at our church. But when I was like the primary overseer of the youth ministry, my world in ministry really did in a lot of ways start in 7th grade and end in 12th grade. And that thinking like that was where the fire was happening, right? And so that's where all the water kept getting poured. And so I wish I would have thought a lot more about, okay, what does that transition into the youth group look like, and how do we continue to pace with students? And I would say this to graduating seniors, and I meant it with all my heart, and a lot of them would take me up on it, but I would be like, listen, just because you're graduating from our youth ministry doesn't mean you're graduating from our life. And honestly, in a lot of ways, our relationship changes in some really cool ways, because now, we're quote unquote adults, and it's not that same leader student, relationship, which sometimes you have to have some healthy boundaries there for. But I wish I would have had a wider whole life view. And I think, so that certainly speaks to this topic at large, but I think it also really speaks to the second point as it relates to like really pouring into parents and families, like seeing it. And I started seeing it like this towards my last couple of years in ministry, but I wish I would have really delved more into that, like youth and family, children and family. Like when you're ministering to a group of people, it should be them and their family. And as we talked about in the session, like being able to leverage those moments that I'm not with them. Like I felt like I was good at reproducing myself and my staff, which was great, and reproducing Christ. I hope for their sake I wasn't reproducing myself too much. Reproducing Christ and how we led and how we loved and cared and paced with students and the staff. I wish I would have done more of that in helping the parents of our students, so that they could, they would be those primary, disciplers of their students in some ways that I think they genuinely wanted to. And so I wish I would have seen that differently. So I wouldn't have just bracketed 7th to 12th grade so much, and that I would have seen the bigger picture of their family and how to minister to an entire family. So, yeah.
I mean, in line with that thought, I'd love to ask both of you a question of like, for our teams today who are watching this, what is like one thing, if they were to leave here and go, okay, in the next couple of months, here's the one thing I want to implement in order for me to do that, whether it's kids or youth ministry, to come alongside a parent and empower them. What do you feel like is, hey, start doing this one thing. It'll make a huge difference.
Yeah. Maybe I'll start what you think here. I think finding intentional ways to encourage them, to encourage the parents. And I think that's the starting line. Like, I don't even know that I need to be like, yes, there's great tools and we'll get to that. But like now being a parent of a teenager and having some tweens and teens coming up through, like just letting them know we're in this together. How can I be a resource to you? How can I help you? How can I support you? How can I come alongside you? I wish I would speak the positive, godly character things I see in their kids more to them. I would do that occasionally, but I would be way more intentional about like interacting with a parent and being like, oh my gosh, I saw this character of Christ in your kid and it was so encouraging. And like that stuff, like for parents who are tired, who are financially frustrated, who are XYZ number of things that the world is just kind of beating them up on, like what parent doesn't love hearing that there's the bright moments in their kids and their involvement in their kids? And so being an encourager to parents and really kind of like helping to, and not just flattering them, but genuinely encouraging them and breathing life into them and helping them to see we're in this together as we pace with your child. And then I think that would open up tons of doors for a lot of other really cool opportunities to dig a little deeper in some things.
Yeah, I mean, most parents that have kids know you most of the time feel like a failure, right? Like,
and you always get that like, oh, well, they were good for you, but you should see them at home with me, and or you know, they don't talk to me like that, or they never listen to me. I told them the same thing. They don't listen to me like that. Like, no, actually, believe it or not, they're hearing your things. Yes. I'm reinforcing what you said, and that was an aha for them because it reinforced what you said, and those kinds of encouragements.
And if the parent feels like they have a helper in you, whether that's with kids or youth, that goes a long way for you to buy in that kind of relationship.
That the personal contact, I think, is the biggest thing. So I don't know if I would say walk away and come up with this humongous plan on how to reach all the parents. There is a quote out there that says, do for one what you wish you could do for all. And so maybe it's just intentionally reaching out, texting, calling, emailing, whatever it is, coffee with a parent to speak life into them about their child, or even to shepherd their heart too through the craziness of raising children. So I think it's that personal connection that is so utterly important, to just partner with parents in a really tangible way. I sometimes hate it, like trying to like sneak a little picture, like while kids are like at the altar responding to God or worshiping, raising their hands, but like I still do it because man, what parent doesn't love to see their crazy little 7-year-old boy in a worshipful moment, raising his hands to Jesus, like responding beautifully in a way that, I mean, resonates with us. Like obviously they can respond in different ways, but like something like that, the parent's like, oh, thank goodness. Yep. Okay. It's in there. It's happening. It's just encouraging.
At a retreat or at a camp and you snap a picture and like, doesn't that just flood a parent's heart? Right. Yeah. Amen.
I agree. I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the concept of helping a student build a faith they will own.
Yeah.
And I'm curious as to how do we do that with kids? Both of you have referenced kids that are seemingly not responding in faith. What does this look like for those kids, right? So they're the kids that it's very easy for us to write them off. It's very easy to be like, man, I don't know what to do. But we would all say discipleship starts before conversion.
Yeah.
So what are some things, maybe a mindset that we can have as leaders that would help us with those kids that we're saying we want them to build their own faith, but right now that faith is non-existent?
Yeah. I mean, I think sometimes we've heard it said, you have to belong before you believe.
Yeah.
And so that, again, personal connection with that child is so important. There's a kiddo who's now an adult that I'm still praying and believing that their heart will be turned towards Christ. And has it happened yet? No,
Yeah.
but I still pray and believe that it will.
Yeah.
And little by little, anytime I get to see them when they're home from college, I have conversations with them. I touch base with them. They know, right? Oh, Pastor Julie, I know what she's going to say. I know what she's going to ask me about. And that's okay, right? Like, it's okay that I'm going to ask you, so where are you at with God now? What's going on? What are your thoughts? I just want to hear.
Yeah.
And I think that non-threatening, like, question asking, which we said earlier today, of just, I really do want to hear from you about what your thoughts are, not what my own are, not what you think I want to hear. I just want to know where you're at with Jesus.
That's good. I literally, before you said, I literally just wrote that down. Like, don't ignore their thoughts or their feelings. Have that conversation with them. Don't, like, instead of like correcting them, no, you should want to be here and you should love Jesus. And that's what we do. Like find out why. Why is this? Why do you think it's boring? Why don't you like it? Okay, well, how are you thinking about that? What is happening that, the X, Y, and don't dismiss how they feel, but help them think through it. So you're like, I feel like we worship. It feels like it's for an hour. Well, actually, it's, you could say to them, well, actually, it's only about 7 minutes that we're doing it. We're, like, okay, why does it feel like that? Why is it something, and I think then as you start to hear and understand what their feelings are, well, then you can actually minister to those things.
Yeah, because some things might be super correctable.
Yeah.
Maybe it's literally just too loud for them and they can't take it. Right? They're overstimulated.
That's good.
Oh, for goodness sakes. Well, we can work with that. It's something tiny that we can adjust volume or position of you in the room or, whatever.
Yeah.
But just hearing the heart is important.
That's good. And helping them think through. Maybe it's just this one or two elements you don't like. Don't write off everything else, right? Okay, maybe this piece isn't for you. And so, like, if you're in youth ministry, that's why I think you should try to and I know they do this in kids ministries as well. Provide as many different ways to engage the gospel and engage community as you can. So, for us, our Wednesday nights didn't look the same. In fact, I was really intentional that we would take a look at a whole month, and each week would feel different. Our first night was always a community night, so it focused on biblical community. So we ate together, we played games together. Like we moved around. It was super relational. The second week was like what would you consider a typical service? There would be worship, or there'd be teaching and prayer time. The next week was a small group discussion time. So like maybe you didn't like I've been sitting in a classroom all week and sitting in for another 20 minutes is not my thing. So like, okay, maybe that week you don't particularly care for, but we'll address this and hit this another way. And I think sometimes maybe we're more intentional with kids ministries because we're like, we got to keep them moving every 7 minutes. Like their attention span is their age, well, guess what? It's not that much different any longer for the teenagers as well. And so, thinking about, okay, let's, and maybe this isn't your thing. Maybe this is, or try it out. But it's easy, I think, to just like, church, I just write it all off. Church isn't for me. It's not my thing. All right, let's find out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then not giving up on them. I mean, I think, oh my word, a kiddo or a teenager that knows that the kids pastor or youth pastor or director cares about them, even though they don't like youth or even though they don't want to be there, that you still go to their game or you still keep reaching out, like just not throwing them away.
Sure.
Yeah. I love that you said that, Julie. And there's a real spiritual gift, which I think everyone can do this and exercise this in seeing the potential or seeing people through the eyes of God. And particularly in those kids that are difficult, like some of the most impactful conversations I've had over the years is when I saw a student, and thankfully for the Lord, he showed me something in that student that was not evident, maybe even to themselves. And you go up and have a conversation and you're like, you speak that life into them. And it's literally like life going into them, And if we can start getting into the habit of that, like talk about them having a faith they can own, all of a sudden, they can start to even entertain believing things about themselves that they would have never believed before.
That's good.
Because it's like an idea has power, and it's not just an idea, it's a biblical idea. It's a biblical truth that takes root. We as leaders have to get in the habit of seeing that and believing that and speaking that into kids. And
if we want them to genuinely own their faith, though, you have to have all of what we just talked about. We have to wrestle with, well, why don't I like this? What do I like? What would be different? If you were to, express your thankfulness to God or something, what would that look like? Like starts to build ownership, and you can, as leaders in the life of a kid, we can start to give them materials to build with. And that gets to what you're saying, seeing something in them. Actually, believe it or not, you really do look like Jesus when XYZ, when you love this way or thought this way, and they don't even realize, oh yeah, like I wouldn't have thought of it that way. And so we start to hand them materials to start to build their own faith with. And so all of those are, I think, critical pieces of them. Now it's my faith. It's not what my parents believe. Right. I'm starting to own it.
It's giving them opportunity too, whether individually or corporately, to have moments where they kind of exercise their faith, whether it's like, praying out loud in a group or something. And they're like, they just step into that moment that's spiritual in a different way. I recently heard a child pray, and I was like, I started just tearing up. And they looked up at me after, like, what, you're crying? Was that bad?
I prayed wrong.
Yeah,
was so bad.
A bad prayer? And I said, it's just the opposite. Your prayer was so beautiful and so right on, and literally spoke to my heart. The Holy Spirit spoke to me through you. Like, it was so beautiful. And so I think sometimes just have those moments where you can give opportunity for them to own their own faith and say something or serve or whatever it is.
Just to piggyback off what you said there real quick, and have them pray about things that they deeply care about and are passionate about, right? So one of the things that we did this year for Advent around Christmas is there's 6 of us in my family, my wife and I and our 4 kids. Each of us wrote down 4 names of people we wanted to pray for. And then we had like a little Advent box thing, and I mixed them all up. And each night we would pick one, and whoever's name got picked, they prayed for that individual. And hearing them pray for their friends versus even just we're going to all pray for Papa and Mima or whatever, tonight, hearing them with their own words, they're like, what do I just pray, ask God to help them with whatever's going on in their world. And it was really, really cool. It was super special. And it was beautiful hearing them pray for their own friends that they care for so deeply. That's ownership, right?
Yeah. One of the things I've heard echoed from both of you, whether it's kids or youth or young adults, is allowing students to try on their faith before we think they're arrived. And there's a real temptation, and one of the challenges is that we think, well, once they reach a maturity level, then we'll let them do whatever the thing is. But what you both are advocating for is no, the disciples are a great example. It's when were they saved, right? And yet they were invited to do ministry and invited to fail and invited. Part of the discipleship is experiencing the things that we don't fully understand and participating in them. And so ask them to do that. Take a moment and go, hey, let's pray. And then, hey, did God say anything to you? That kid probably isn't even a Christian yet, right? But what you're doing is going, this is normal. You can experience this. And maybe God does say something to them, So give those opportunities.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. I had a question about biblical community, the necessities of healthy biblical community. I'd love some tips from you guys. We live in a time now where certainly in youth ministry, and this is becoming more true in kids ministry too, where in youth ministry back in the day, you still had parents forcing kids to go. That almost never happens anymore. It used to be in kids ministry, probably more and more you had parents that were fine with dropping off or sending kids because even if they weren't quite there, they still saw value in some sort of, Christian education. That's happening probably less and less. And so how do we, with increasing chance that, and on top of that, kids in a more digital age, there's more social anxiety, there's more them having a face-to-face conversation with each other is more and more awkward, right? How do we help create some of the biblical community that draws them to the things that we're doing? So the desire to be there is on the kid or the student more than the parent saying you're going. What are any thoughts on some simple ways that we can make that be a place that they want to be?
Yeah, I think getting that understanding into the students who are already there and leveraging their influence, even on a kid they might not know. So when I was trained up in youth ministry and even trained other youth ministers with me, it was always I always put that on our adult leaders, like go talk to all these kids, go invite them, go, like interact with them, make them feel welcome. And occasionally we would have like a student to be like, hey, so-and-so will sit with you. And they would go sit with, they would like be with them for 30 seconds and then they would disappear and that kid would be by themselves again. But I believe more and more now that if you want to have healthy biblical community, you've got to get those students who are already bought in to be the catalyst for those relationships. You can have a good relationship with a teenager or a kind of a marginalized teen in the group, but not until they make a genuine relationship connection with a peer of theirs do you start to see that I want to actually be there now, ratchet up. And so really finding ways to, and some of this I think spills into the last section we were talking about as it relates to the students being kind of the stakeholders, ownership of the group, so to speak, like help them to catch a vision for that. And some kids will catch it real quick. And some kids will catch it from the kids who catch it real quick. Like, what's the intention of you, especially your juniors and seniors? Like they've played all your dumb games. They've heard all of your stupid stories. Like they moan and groan. You're like, oh, shoulders, knees, cup again. We love that game, whatever. But like if they start showing up when you're gathering with a different mentality of, I'm going to find that new kid or that kid who hasn't talked to anybody yet, or the junior high that's terrified of being in that room and make a relationship. In my opinion, I don't have any statistics. I wish I did. I'm sure there may be some out there. I don't know them though. I would imagine that retention for that student is exponential when it's a peer, even with a great relationship with another adult.
Yeah. I mean, I have a real life story of this. Just my son went on his first youth retreat, right? And really struggled the whole first half because he felt like super anxious going into it, didn't have a ton of relationships or connections. And literally it took one, and the adult leaders were really engaged, really like, let's come around him. Didn't make really a difference. Yeah. It took one student going, hey, we're going over here. Do you want to come with us? And boom, everything changed. Like the whole perspective, everything changed from one kid. Yeah. And now he's got like a text thread with kids in the youth group. And so the power, to your point, like the power of that peer-to-peer, it almost, you could do everything in the world as adult leaders, but if you don't create that somehow, man, you got an uphill battle,
And kids are fully capable of it too.
Sure.
Having a little lead team within your kids' ministry is totally fine. They can do it. They just train them up, have the conversations about what it looks like to lead and what it looks like to include others and live like Jesus, and they'll rise to the challenge. Yeah.
I think young adults do this more naturally. Like, you did college ministry for a while, things like that. Like sometimes, and maybe it's just because like, maybe it's where they're at cognitively, like when they realize what they've been saved and rescued from, they want to tell all their friends immediately, right? So like, and sometimes you got to tell them like, whoa, yes, invite your friends, but slow down a little bit. Like let's pace with you. Let's, but like, I think you see that more naturally when they realize that why they've been saved, what they've been saved for. So helping to our teenagers and our kids understand that as well is our salvation is not just for us, but it's for restoring and redeeming every relationship that we have, and we want to tell anyone and everyone about it and those sorts of things.
And we make the mistake of only talking about sharing Jesus as in this almost like street preaching way versus sharing Jesus and making disciples is you going and being a friend to somebody. Like you referenced this earlier in one of the conversations, like or maybe it was earlier today when you said like it's just, hey, a senior, like before you worry about changing the world, how about you go to that seventh grader that feels like they don't know anybody and you go like, hey, you want to hang with us? Because that would change their world. And so I think we sometimes like overhype evangelism and discipleship as to being like, reach your schools and you got to, and that's all great, right? But sometimes it's a way simpler than that.
When you're waiting, I spoke at a retreat a couple weekends ago. When you're waiting to hear from God, like what did you create me for? What's my call? Where am I supposed to go to college? Where am I supposed to go to ministry? In the waiting, be active and start loving those that are already around you.
Yeah.
Like let that spill out into them, and then it will just be a natural outflow of that to wherever it is that God sends you. Anyway.
I think also like let's not neglect the power of prayer. Right. And So a multi-generational church. So if you have adults pouring into teens and teens pouring into kids, like that's a really beautiful thing, even if it's not like on a weekly basis, but it's through prayer.
Yes,
It's
great.
really powerful. There's Kirkland Life does this really well, where they have these like prayer partners. It's adults praying for children. It might be teens as well. They're probably on here, so I'm messing it up, and I apologize in advance. But it's like it's secret. Nobody knows who the prayer partner is, and then they have this big reveal like party where you get to see that spiritual, grandma or grandpa in the church that was praying for you for a certain amount of time. Like I'm sure it is extremely powerful. And it helps tie together. Like we are the body of Christ, and there's so much that can happen when we work together. And of course, the power of prayer. I mean,
Sure.
my goodness.
Very cool.
What a great way too to leverage multi-generational ministry.
Yeah.
Like you may have the senior folks in here, like I can't do youth ministry. I don't have the energy for kids ministry. You know what you could do? You could do both of those, and you could be praying the
That's right.
Intercede for us while we're
Amen.
meeting on Sunday mornings. Intercede for us when we're meeting on Wednesday. Powerful too,
Yes,
right?
it really is.
Yeah.
Guys, we're coming to the end here.
Holy moly, that was the fastest half hour ever.
Yes, it went
Yeah,
quick.
it was.
Wow.
So I'm going to quickly bring
Yeah,
up like
please.
parents, partnering with parents and helping them. Mark alluded to that in his video, or talked about prompts and stuff. So this is conversation cards that are right on myhealthychurch.com. And it's just cards that give you a question to talk about with your kids. So the question's up here, and on the back, there's some type of just a short, brief paragraph, couple of sentences about the topic, and then a verse that goes with it. It's such a great tool.
That's really cool.
Such a nice moment to have with your kids at dinner time, and you don't have to think, and you just pull a card and then here we go. And it'll come up with some really amazing questions that balloon into really deep and meaningful conversations.
That's great. Yeah. And we recognize families, you might not every night be sitting around the dinner table.
Right. Oh, for
you
sure.
You can put
Keep it
that
in the
card.
car.
You can put a couple in your car, and while
That's
you're
right.
driving to practice,
Yes.
have a genuine conversation. 100%.
That's
Love
right.
that.
Sure.
Right.
Well, thank you everybody for being a part of this event. It's been a privilege to get to kind of be with you guys digitally, and just as way of a reminder, a couple of things. Number one, we would love for you to take a group picture and text it to my number so we can just share it and get it out there. Also, if you're interested in giving to the Next Gen Scholarship Fund, that would be amazing. All the proceeds will go between kids and camp, or kids and youth to Scholarship for Camp. You can scan that and do that. We'd love feedback. We'd love to hear from you guys. If there's topics for next
good.
year that you're interested in hearing about, stuff that would be beneficial for you, our heart is to serve you. And I think we've pretty much made the decision. We're going to try to make this event free again next year, because our hope is it provides tremendous value. So that being said, thank you guys. We love you. We appreciate you. Keep rocking it in Next Gen Ministry.
Yeah.
And we look forward to seeing you soon.
Adios.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Boom.